listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. And today, man, we have another awesome show lined up for y'all. We have the creator of the REVOLT, and her name is Bridgit Norris. She's a leadership coach and strategist for amazing people like yourself, the brand creators, the entrepreneurs. Man, we're going to learn everything about the REVOLT Weekly that she does. And she also has an Instagram that you can go follow. It's real easy. It's Bridgit Norris on Instagram. First and foremost, I want to welcome you, Bridgit, to the show. Say, how you doing?
I am fabulous. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, I appreciate you being on. So, man, let's get to it. So, you're on a mission to help business owners and women as well. And with your platform that you have, the Weekly REVOLT, kind of share with the audience a little bit what that mission is and what it's all about.
Yeah, so the revolt really started as a personal revolt, kind of in this online space industry. I had to take a step back and realize how stifling and how much it's actually putting people in a box, which is not the intent of what we're here to do, to, create the freedom and kind of do what we want to do. And so that really came from me actually having to, really revolt against what was going on and decide that, we can be multi-passionate. We can do all the things that we want to do, and we can do it how we want to do it. And the rules and, the things that are being put on us in the online space just have to go.
And like you just said, I mean, online space, there's so many inspirational, memes or posters, whatever you want to call it, on like major, Twitter or Instagram feeds. But what you're doing is a little bit slightly more than inspiration as far as the typical inspiration that we see. Kind of explain to the audience what happens once a person requests us to join this platform.
So yeah, definitely. This isn't just, my idea isn't, to inspire you or to empower you, because really you have that within yourself. The thing that needs to happen is the action, and the action being taken in a way that, is true to you. Like, so when they step into the revolt, the idea is, what is it that you want? What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? And in order to find that, we really look at, your strengths. We spend a little time looking at your weaknesses, but I'm a person that believes we have a very powerful set of strengths that have been coded within us from the time we were a kid. And it really is just drawing them out and understanding them and utilizing them in a way that serves how you want to show up and what you want to create. So this is all about, you and you actually taking the strategic action to move forward. So there's a lot less of the fluff and the kind of talk that we get a lot in this space about you only have to be a couple steps ahead of people. And, you need to, I'm just going to give you some generalized, you need a niche, you need a this. I don't believe you need anything. I'm a really big proponent of this. It's 8 weeks. And so it's super intense, and I'm a big person, dive in, get really intense, get it done, make the commitment. So I'm big on working with people that are, super dedicated to doing the work, right? Showing up every day for themselves and doing the stuff that's hard is something that's super important to me. I don't believe that hustle is a bad word. I don't think that it doesn't even feel like hustling when you're doing what you love and you're in that space. So I'm big on really getting things done.
And someone listening right now, especially someone who is trying to be their own boss, their own brand entrepreneur, I mean, how do they get that mindset that, all right, enough of the nice little things we say about, trying to have a brand or a business. How do they separate themselves from just the nice things, if you will, of of being a entrepreneur versus like what you're saying, be bold, do it, live it, talk it, stop just, trying to blend in with the entrepreneurship scene, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that it's one of the, I'm not big on rules, and I always, tell everybody that works with me there's no such thing as rules, but I do have one rule when we are working together, and that is that you mind your own business. And what I mean is that you've got to cut out the noise. You have got to just focus in on yourself. I think a lot of what happens to us when we seem to get lost or we get distracted or we think we're not clear and we're not focused, it is literally because we are spending way too much time consuming, and there's way too much time with a lot of noise. In order to be an outside of the box person and think outside of the box, you've got to really work on your own thought leadership. You've got to really create your own, intellectual property as it relates to thoughts. And that does not come from the consumption that we are so used to.
And someone who joins your platform when it comes to just leading themselves to basically, like we're talking about the whole show right now, cutting the BS, just getting to the point. Where am I lacking? Where should I be improving? Where should I be consistent? What are some of the tools that you share with them to keep that type of mindset to where they stay sharp and not make excuses or, just don't take it seriously?
We go through 2 phases, and I think that going through these initial 2 phases really creates a really solid foundation and an understanding and a confidence in themselves. So we go through something I call the black sheep values, which are establishing our core values as a human, as a person, and then establishing our black sheep values in our business. This is how we're standing out. These are our North Stars. This is the thing that we are not deviating from. And then we look at our strengths, and I do that utilizing a couple different strengths tests, and what happens when they take these tests and they really sit with them and we really go through them, one-on-one. It is an intense understanding of who they truly are, how people truly see them and their strengths. And there's just a sense of confidence and resiliency that's built up in an understanding. As soon as that lands, it is like, the weight with their shoulders is off and they're ready to roll, because that part of them that's kind of been locked up is now completely open. And it's amazing what happens after that. Just in those first few weeks, that's the real solid foundation that's needed. And I think it's a big missing piece that a lot of us jump into businesses and don't really spend enough time on. It's not the sexy work, but it's the work that allows us to, take our next steps and really be consistent and be excited about showing up every day.
I mean, that's a good point. Once again, listen on Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Bridgit Norris. You can follow her on Instagram at Bridgit Norris, and she is the creator of the REVOLT. And man, speaking of you being a strategist, everything, when it comes to strategy, that's the key to everything, because there's really no magic secret sauce, if you will, from this brand and that brand. If there was any secret sauce, it's because someone made it. Someone actually put in the work to make that, situation look like magic. What's your perspective on that?
100%. I'm a firm, every strategy works, but the only strategy that's going to work for you is the one that you want to do and that feels good to you. So trying to, do someone else's, 3 steps or blueprints, those are, I found 99% of the time, they don't work for everyone. And then for the people that they do, they end up either hating their business, changing their business, or completely just throwing in the towel, a few years later, because it's not what they signed up for. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to own your own business. The entire concept is that it's yours, it's from you, it's been created by you, and it's the way you want to move through it. So I think that strategy is definitely needed. I don't believe that we can get through without it, but I do believe that there is a way to create the perfect strategy for you. You just have to outline what that looks like. There's going to be a lot of things in that is still business related and you won't want to do. I mean, let's be real, it's work. There's always going to be parts of it that we don't want to do. But as long as we know we're following our own flow, our own, true strategy, it ends up being great in the end.
And this sounds like it's a lifestyle. This is not just something that you kind of do and then you kind of stop and take a break for like 3 years. This sounds like maintenance, something that you have to decide, okay, cut the BS. Am I going to do this or am I not? So for you, how soon did you adopt this lifestyle to where, boom, everything is just like, it's lining up because you're actually purposely deciding this is what I want and you're bold about it?
Oh, well, I mean, this is part of when I talk about this is being coded in your DNA, like I looked at, who I was and what my strengths were and how they tied back to things that I've always been. And I've always been a very rebellious, revolt against, everything that everyone said person. I just needed to understand how that translated into my business. So I have a lot of women that are learning that, this is the way they are, this is the way they've always been, but they don't know how to translate that into their business, which is why it doesn't feel aligned to them, which is why they're doing things that are, feel restrictive or don't feel like they go along with their values. It's because it doesn't. So it's really finding, and it's not always going to be the same, right? I'm a very, hardcore, pretty consistent. I like my routines. I like my schedules. Not everybody's like that. So when we work together, it is a, finding that, balance for them. If you don't like to create on a schedule, then we don't do that, right? Instead of just not creating. So it's a really, it's a fine line between finding the balance and actually doing what's needed, but it's totally possible. It's just being willing to do the work to find it.
And have you ever worked with someone where they needed a little bit more of a push? And what I mean by that is like, say, for example, someone maybe has some self-image issues, and has there been a situation where you had to kind of give them some pep talk and say, hey, this is, what you think you're going to, plateau at and not accomplish more, but this is where I want you to go?
Always. There's always a point where I can tell when someone is creating problems or creating drama, creating, issues for themselves that aren't really there, that don't really exist, when they are, for some reason, scared to show up in a certain way, or they are scared to have to make that move and they don't have the confidence. That's usually how it shows up. I usually get pushback on what they need to do, even if we're manipulating it around what they want, they're still pushing back. That's how I know that there's a deeper issue. There's usually a reason why they're not wanting to show up. So we have to dig into that and find out what that is and then work through that.
Yeah, I like on your Instagram, one of your posts, recent posts, is a graphic with the revolts, but the subtitle is "Get Clear, Get Heard, Get Hired." I mean, I love the theme because you're right to the point and you're not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it took me a long time myself to kind of wrap my head around that. Like, where are we all stuck? We're all stuck in this, squirrel brain kind of like roller coaster ride that you can never get off of feeling like you're always unclear. And that learning to take when you're stuck and actually using that as a creative platform creates a more powerful, flow. We're always in a circle and we can always keep moving, and we use that. We get clear from our creativity versus thinking that being stuck is a problem and then just staying there. Because I always say over and over and over again, not making a choice, not moving is a choice. And it's not one that I'm willing to accept for myself or for the people that work with me. It's not an option to stay where we are.
And that's the key right there, staying where we are. How does the potential effect cause us to stay stagnant, especially when we look at society and we think about what society might, want for us, or compare ourselves to their standards or this other person's chapter 500 to our chapter 2 or whatever. How we keep ourselves from being entangled into the status quo.
For me, that's the dictation of, part of the whole process that we go through is like, what does success look like to you? What does freedom look like to you? What does that mean in your life? Because it's life before business. And then what does that look like in your business? Because looking around and comparing is, obviously the worst possible thing that we can do, because it also doesn't matter if you're 100 steps ahead of me or 100 steps behind me. It's not relative to what's actually going on behind the scenes. We don't actually know. So we cannot focus on what success looks like for anyone else until, we're ready to actually, come out and say what it looks like. And what I have going on is people coming out and saying, well, the online space is dictating that 6-figure months is what success equals, but I don't want that. Well, I'm here to say, like, loud and proud, scream to the world what success looks like to you and be proud of that. You don't need to put yourself in that box. And I think a lot of people are waiting for people to express those same views and not be scared to do that.
People always have the opportunity to build something. And the reason why I say that is because we hear the saying, everyone has 24 hours, but not everyone uses the time well. Well, is it also because people just don't know how, or is it more than that? Should we be a little bit more responsible to understand how we are using our time?
I think that there's a little bit of both. I think that, we need to be real with ourselves on the time that we're wasting, right? We use a lot of, especially now that everybody's businesses are on social media, we use a lot of excuse that we're on there because we're doing business. If you're real with yourself, that's not the case. If you I make my clients set up the app on their phone that tells them how long they've been on their phone, like how many times and how many hours that they've spent. And it's amazing when they realize how much time they're wasting. So if you're somebody that needs to be regimented and have a schedule, and I have people like that where we're saying, great, if you want to surf and do fun things on the internet and, waste time, if you want to do those things because they feel good, I want you to do them, but you need to schedule that in and not consider that, I'm doing my work or I'm doing business, because it's a lot of time that we're spending that is meaningless. I'm all for, life first. So in doing the things that you love and plugging those things in, those are just as important, but we also have to be real with ourselves and be honest when we are wasting the time that we have.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Bridgit Norris. She's the creator of the REVOLT, and you can go check her out on Instagram at Bridgit Norris. When it boils down to what we're saying, man, at the end of the day, we choose. I feel like even if it's like you're taking one step at a time, someone told me, as long as you're taking one step in the right direction, you're better off than the person who takes no steps at all. So for you and your experience, how do you weigh out those choices that you make and possibly like reflect on them so that you're continuously trying to position yourself to take better steps forward?
I 100% agree with you. You're always taking a step. And for me, it's easy because I just look at it and say, I can take steps and then realize at one point that I'm going in the wrong direction. And here's the best part of it. You get to turn around and go in the other direction and you keep moving. I do not making a wrong, a wrong direction or a wrong decision or taking the wrong way or the wrong route a bad thing. It's a learning experience, and you turn around and you go the other way. and we keep moving. There's never a time where it's okay for you to be like, oh my God, I went the wrong way. I'm just going to stop here. I'm just going to live right in the wrong way. That is just not an acceptable way to move through life in any aspect of it, whether it's your business or your personal life. I think always moving forward that is where the success lies, no matter how many times you make a wrong move.
Boom, mic drop. So someone listening to this and they're ready to join this platform that you created, the Revolt, the weekly email series that you do. And I'm sure it's more than that. Once people are inside, they have more benefits. Who are you specifically targeting, and who should make the move today if they're ready to take that step and start making those moves with you?
I mean, I initially it was the movement started as women, and then it started as women coaches, and now it's expanded itself into professionals or entrepreneurs, people who are corporate professionals. And there isn't a single person who isn't trying to excel in whether they have a business or whether they're trying to excel in corporate or whatever it is that would not benefit from this movement. I think it applies across the board to everyone.
I like the whole vibe of this because it just screams out like, cut through the noise. Don't do the same posts on social media that everybody's doing. Don't create the same this and that you believe is only going to be successful because X, Y, and Z, person did it. This is like, hey, check yourself, check your, what's going on inside your world. Because I had someone say this week on my show that you gotta look underneath the hood sometimes and be like, okay, what the heck is going on in my car, aka myself, my life? Because until you actually check underneath there, you can be caught up into this cycle of just scrolling, looking for inspiration when you have enough in front of your face.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is that 100%. I think even the people, we're going to take this like a step further, even the people that are willing to look underneath the hood, the next step is you've got to be willing to do that scary move of putting it out there. It's scary to put, the realness that's inside out there, which is why so many people are just trying to copy, and I'll just post a meme. I'll just, do something very generic and something very, it lacks depth, and it's not because you don't have any. It's just because you're afraid to put that out there, and that's normal. But I think that, the scary part about it is that first initial step. And then once you do it, it is like, you realize that it's not that hard. It actually feels better to be able to be real. And people want real. People do not want the cookie cutter, vanilla, boring, in the box type of content and type of work anymore. You've got to be willing to, be real. And honestly, that's all that you need to do, because that piece of you is something that can't be replicated, and trying to replicate someone else is just doing yourself such a disservice that it's not even, forget the fact that you're doing a disservice to not sharing your gifts to the world. You're actually doing yourself the biggest disservice.
And this rule breaking platform that you created, I know a lot of people won't be trying to be in the, generic world, like, oh, that's too much. But what do you say to the people who are interested and excited to really embrace that lifestyle? Because like I said, I think it's a choice of a lifestyle. You either surround yourself with smart people and you level up, or you just keep complaining.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of a joker. So I usually tell people, like, come to the dark side. Just be a rule breaker for a little bit. I promise you won't want to go back. I promise you'll be staying over here. That disruptor point of view, once it comes out, you're never going to want to put that back in the box. So just give it a try. You know what I mean? Like, just try it. There's lots of things in life that you can give a try to. This would be one of those things that I would say.
Man, once again, talking to our guest, Bridgit Norris, the creator of the Revolt. She's also a leadership coach and strategist for anyone out there who's ready to just go to the next level and take, life seriously the way you want it. That's the key, right? Like, why would you want to continue to just do the same old thing? It's about that change, and someone like you who can help them be guided into that lifestyle of just stop making excuses and start taking care of what you're blessed to have. Like, that's the point. You have the ability to take care of it. So now it's game time, We got to go. It's time to shine, time to go. So, man, once again, I want to say thanks to Bridgit Norris being on the show today. What's the best call to action for our listeners?
Yeah, you can find me at Bridgit Norris. And because I'm difficult, my name is spelled different. It's Bridgit Norris. And you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook, both ways. And if you want to get into the weekly Revolt, there is a link in my Instagram. You can just hop over there and get on in.
Once again, I want to say thank you to Bridgit Norris. Take your time talking to I Am Refocused Radio.
Thank you.